Now, I'd like to ask you a very important question. What is sin? How could we define sin? Well, the Bible says in 1 John chapter 3 and verse number 4, "Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law." So sin is a passing through or passing beyond the boundary that God's law reveals. So it is simply the crossing of the line. As a matter of fact, if you're not breaking one of God's laws, then we have not actually sinned, because sin is a breaking of God's law. But it begs another question. What is the law? Well, think of the 10 Commandments. The first one is, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." Have you ever made anyone or anything more important than God? Has anything that has been created by men assumed a place of importance in your life that is greater than God? It also says in the second commandment that we are not to make any graven image or statue. "Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them." While we may not have actually made a carved or graven image, we may have bowed down or prayed to some statue in our life. And that is giving a worship to an object that belongs to God himself. The Bible says in the third commandment, "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in name." If we have ever used God's lightly, and if we have ever cursed, then we have taken his name lightly, we have sinned. Remember the fourth commandment, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy." It means that there is a day of the week that is to be set apart or set aside for God. Have we always kept the Lord's day primarily for worship? The fifth commandment is, "Honor thy father and thy mother." Have we ever been disrespectful or cruel to our mother or our father? If we have, we've sinned. The sixth commandment is, "Thou shalt not kill." And though we may not have plunged the knife, we may have the heart of a murderer. And Jesus was actually quite clear about this. He said it is not actually just the act of violence, it is the hatred in the heart that makes us guilty of the sixth commandment. The seventh commandment is, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." And Jesus said in Matthew 5 in verse 27 and 28, "Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that he that looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart." So though we may not have committed adultery, lust could be in the heart, and that makes us guilty of sin. Remember, sin is anything I think, anything I say, or anything I do that breaks God's law. So whether it is looking at porn or having lustful thoughts, it is sin. The Bible says in the eighth commandment that "Thou shalt not steal." So if we've taken anything that does not belong to us, then that is sin. The ninth commandment is, "Thou shalt not bear false witness or to thy neighbor or lie." So if we've withheld information or misrepresented information so as to gain in some way, that's lying, that is sin. And the final commandment, the 10th commandment, is, "Thou shalt not covet." So covet is wanting anything that you cannot or should not have. So if we have ever broken any one of these 10 commandments, we have sinned. And the truth be known, all of us have placed God far below other things. All of us have cursed. All of us have dishonored our parents. We've had hate and envy for other people. We've perhaps entertained lustful thoughts and used deceit and coveted the things that we cannot or should not have. The law is simply the boundary. It's the line. And the main purpose of the law is just to reveal our sin. God never gave the law so that we could justify ourselves through keeping it. God gave the law so that we would realize that we have sinned. The Bible says in Romans chapter 3 and verse number 19, "Now we know that what things soever the law saith, it saith to them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before God." So why was the law written? so that you and I could say that we have fulfilled it and are righteous by our fulfilling of it? No. The law was written so that we would realize that we've sinned, literally, so every mouth may be stopped and all the world may stand before God guilty because of their sin. That's what it means to be under law. The line in the sand is before us, and it has revealed that we have sinned over and over again. So the law is the revealer. It reveals our state or our standing before God. And it also reveals that we have no more excuses. We are sinners. The Bible goes on to say in Romans chapter 3 and verse number 20, "Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight. For by the law is the knowledge of sin." And this is where most people make a mistake. They think that by keeping law, they're aware of the law, and that by their efforts to keep it, they are making themselves righteous. But the fact of the matter is, law simply reveals the hatred, the lust, the cursing, the coveting, the placing of things in front of God. By the law is the knowledge of sin. In the next video in this series, we are going to look at how God has provided a wonderful and amazing payment for that sin. I hope you join me.